Let's talk about Unconscious Mind, an engine building worker placement game all about psychoanalysis. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald. In this episode, I'm super excited to talk to you about a game that's all about Freudian psychoanalysis. It's a worker placement game, it's an engine building game. Those are two mechanisms I love, and I am now the proud owner of a Sigmund Freud meeple is in my collection of games. So very excited to talk about this game. This is one that came to retail not too long ago. It was kickstarted, but it hit retail not long ago. It is a game called Unconscious Mind. This is from Fantasia Games and Lucky Duck. Unconscious Mind is a game for between 1 and 4 players. It's pretty complicated, so kids age 14 and up can play this one. Games take approximately 90 minutes to a couple of hours to play. Our first game took 4 hours. Let's take a deeper look at Unconscious Mind from Fantasia and Lucky Duck. This is a game with a lot of parts. It did take up my entire table. We played a 3-player game. I have a 6x4 game table. Every inch of space was taken up by Unconscious Mind because you're playing with 5 boards and then there's decks of cards. There's a marketplace that you're drafting from. There's a lot going on here. This is a game that is it's close to heavy. It's maybe not as heavy as, say, Twilight Imperium or some of those really, really long, heavy, complex games. This is at the high end of medium, very close to the heavy level when it comes to complexity. Like I said, our first game took 4 hours to play, and I don't think I closed the rule book for the first 3 hours. It's a game where you're playing as Freud's contemporaries in the early days of psychoanalysis. What you're trying to do is earn victory points by improving your reputation around the city of Vienna, by curing patients, and by publishing your ideas about psychoanalysis and your client's underlying problems. There's dream analysis is happening here. You're going to be drinking a lot of coffee and filling up lots of notebooks with notes about your insights into what's happening with your clients. But this is a game that's all about earning the most victory points. There's a lot going on in this game, and I'm not going to go into detail about all the nitty-gritty of the gameplay here. I mean, there are lots of videos about how to play this game. Watch It Played has one, so Rodney's team does a really good job of that kind of thing, and this is a heavy, complex game. This is a game where you're going to be doing one of 3 things on your turn, and like I said, you're playing on 5 different boards. I've got 4 of the boards here, not the 5th one. The Vienna board, where your meeples are wandering around the city of Vienna with Freud. You're going to earn some resources and potentially improve your reputation by doing that. I'm just going to show you photos of that one because this game is so big. I haven't even arranged this stuff correctly. It's taking up all of my small table here. It's a game where each player is going to have a player board. Each player is going to have a little insight board where you're tracking insights that you're going to use to cure your clients. And then you've got an office with 2 patient rooms, and that's where your client cards go. On your turn, I mean, this is going to sound simple, but on your turn, you get a choice. You get to do one of 3 actions. You can state your ideas, which means you're going to a restaurant or a coffee shop with other professors, and you're talking about your ideas about what's happening with your clients. This is the early days of psychoanalysis. And the the workers in quotes that you're placing are actually little word balloons. These are your ideas that you're talking about. So to state an idea, you're just placing one of those word balloons from your board onto this main cafe board where you're talking with the other players. Now, the where the word balloon points to is the action that you're taking. So you can block spots, but you're blocking spots that are available to take multiple different actions. You can place 2 ideas on the same space, and then you get to do the same thing twice. One of the major things that you're going to be doing in this game is writing down your ideas in notebooks. These are the notebooks that are going to be used to fill up your player board. Once you've stated your idea, you're going to play out that action, whatever it might be. You might be moving Freud or moving your own meeple around Vienna to collect resources that way. You might be publishing papers or publishing articles in the newspaper, and you might be writing in that notebook. Writing in the notebook is going to give you potentially some instant bonus, and then the ongoing bonus is going to happen as you build up your engine. And then your engine just really ramps up as you fill these things up, and you can get a number of victory points and reputation by filling up your player board with these notebooks. Once you've done your action, you're going to look across the row where you place those word balloons, and then you're going to move your little ink pot along here, and that's what activates the parts of your engine so that you can do things in the game. As you circle around, you're moving this thing clockwise at all times. This is not the deluxe version of the game. I guess with the Kickstarter, these ink pots had labels on them to match the players. There's a deluxe, really deluxe version with resin and clear and real quartz in the top. But these are perfect, and they're in the player colors. The game itself is pretty deluxe, even though this isn't the ultimate deluxe Kickstarter version of the game. So you move your ink pot, you carry out whatever action's happening on your player board, and then the next player gets to take their turn. Eventually, you're going to run out of ideas. You're going to have all of these already placed on the board, and then another action you could choose to do on your turn is to recall your ideas, and that's going to allow you to grab these things back from the board. It gives you some coffee based on how many different places you placed your ideas in the cafe, and then you're going to wind up activating something on the Vienna player board when you recall your ideas. You're talking to other people about your ideas that might improve your reputation, for example. Finally, and this is probably the most important part of the game, if we're talking about a game that's all about psychoanalysis, you could choose to treat your clients. So you can state your ideas or recall your ideas, or you can spend your turn treating clients. And what that's going to allow you to do is to spend these insights that you've earned. So you've got this insight board. It's supposed to fit over here on the edge of your player board. That's what this little round cutout is for. I've had to move things around to make sure everything could fit on the little camera here. But this is a board where you're moving these tokens around to earn insights, personal growth insights, or insights about passions. And you're spending those insights to interpret your client's dreams. Each client, when you play them onto your office board, is going to have a latent dream, which is underneath here, and a manifest dream. And you earn therapy points by spending the resources to interpret those dreams. Eventually, you're going to be moving this therapy thing down so that your client's almost cured at this point. If I manage to interpret this dream, I'm going to get 3 therapy points and some victory points. At some point, there's a marker on that office space that indicates that a catharsis has been reached. Each client also has this little grief overlay on top of them. It's Rorschach-style ink blots that you're looking at here. By reaching that catharsis, you're going to clear this overlay off of your client. You're removing your client's grief. You've dealt with your client's grief. You're going to earn some resources by doing that. And then now your client has some ability that they're going to allow you to do, along with an icon that gives you some reputation in the city or some ability in the city of Vienna when you're working on that player board. Clients are going to give you victory points. You've got regular, standard, routine clients. They'll give you instant victory points. You've got clients that are case study clients. These are the ones that you're going to write about. And those case study clients give you instant victory points. They also give you some victory points at the end of the game. You might get points based on the number of different clients that you've cured, or the number of different icons that you have on your board, or the number of treaties you've managed to publish. There's a lot of different ways to earn victory points in this game, and at the end, it's a bit of a point salad. And that's really the game. Now, I've really simplified things and shortened that description. The game is going to end once enough reputation has been earned that Freud's reputation reaches a certain point on that reputation board. Once he gets to the end of the reputation board, that's when you're going to start wrapping things up and counting up those victory points. What skills are you working on when you play a game like Unconscious Mind? And this is a higher level, heavier game. This does require you to think ahead, to really plan ahead. You've got the short-term goals, maybe of curing your clients, but the longer-term goals of curing certain clients that are going to earn you more victory points. In order to do that, you need to get the insights. You need to be able to reach that catharsis and get to the point where you're curing those clients. There's really short-term and long-term planning that's going on here. And there are a lot of resources to manage. You're managing those insight resources on this round board. You're managing your ideas, and you might be blocking your other opponents from being able to use certain spaces on that board. You're going to want to put your ideas in certain spots to move your ink pot a certain number of spaces. So there's a lot of planning and thinking ahead. There's resource management here as well. And when you're doing that planning and budgeting, then we are talking about executive functioning skills, those skills and behaviors that you need to work toward a goal. There's some pattern recognition as well. You are thinking about matching up the patterns of insights on your dreams that you're trying to interpret for your clients with the insights on your board. You can move those insights around, and you can spend coffee to do certain things. There's another resource I barely talked about, coffee. I mean, it doesn't look like a coffee cup, but I sure do love the color of these translucent coffee cubes. It does remind me of coffee for sure. You are looking at the patterns on the cards, the patterns on your board as well, in order to play through this game. So you've got that pattern recognition, and you've got short and long-term planning. That's invoking the executive functioning skills. Final thoughts about unconscious mind. Number one, I mean, the theme, I was so excited to open this box to see what was inside. I mean, I'm a psychologist, so of course, this is the history of psychology. Freud was the guy who came up with the talking cure, and that's now my whole job. Most of my life is taken up with the talking cure, I would say. And so I was really excited to open up this box and really dig into this game. Uh, it's very thematic and immersive, I would say. It makes sense. You're talking with other professors, other therapists about your ideas. You're generating those insights. You're treating your clients. Of course, it's abstract. You're not really talking about specific client problems, but you get to play as Jung or Adler, for example, which were folks that I studied when I was in school. So, and you've got that, you're chasing after Freud and trying to earn reputation kind of on his coattails to an extent. What a great combination of mechanisms, and a great combination of interlocking mechanisms that really, where you're placing it, your ideas on this idea board, really has an impact on how your engine activates and what you're going to be able to do on your next turn. And it is, you do have to think about, okay, if I do this, then this is going to happen, and that will allow me on my next turn to do that. And hopefully your opponents don't take the spot that you wanted in order to do the thing that you wanted. But there's always something that you can do in this game, because even if your space is blocked or someone drafts a client that you wanted to be able to treat in your office, there's always something you're going to be able to do. Whether it's treating a client, you can recall those ideas, and that's going to give you lots of bonuses as well. Um, Treating the clients, though, is the most important thing in terms of earning those victory points at the end of the game. But there's so many things to do here that we had a lot of fun doing it. It's very much, I mean, this is a heavy strategic game. It's not a game that should be taken lightly. It's a game that you really do have to think about your turns. You do have to plan ahead. Now, for myself, I was so enthusiastic about the theme that I'm almost sort of just trying to do something and see what happens. So there was a bit of planning ahead for me, but the journey was as important as the destination, I would say. And the journey was really a fun one here. I love the components. The pieces here are great. You've got dual layer player boards, and this isn't even the deluxified version. I was enthusiastic about these ink blot cards as well. There's so many things here that just remind me of what I studied at school. It gave me happy memories, I would say, of what I studied at school. I was playing with folks who didn't know very much about the history of psychology, so I guess I could have, if they wanted me to, I could have done lectures about, the unconscious and these insights and why the insights are important. But I was almost kind of bouncing up and down and clapping my hands as we were playing this thing, just because it was exciting for me. I need to meet some more board game therapists who who would be enthusiastic about the theme that I could play this game with, who know a bit more about Freud and Adler and Jung. But fantastic theme and mechanisms that work very well together. I love the worker placement, where the direction in which you place your idea is going to have an impact on the action you can take. And then choosing, because you're managing your ideas, choosing, do I want to do that action twice on this turn and get 2 bonuses instead of just 1? That gives you so many options as you're playing through the game. Oh my goodness. This is a game that I really, really, really enjoyed. I mean, the replayability is there because right away you're thinking, well, okay, I can't say right away. It did take us 4 hours to play this game, so you're not immediately probably going to be super enthusiastic about resetting the board and starting all over again, but it is a game I've been thinking about since I played it. What if I tried this? Oh, maybe next time I would do that. There are so many options here that it really does give you lots to think about and lots to do. There are maybe some downsides though, maybe for some groups more than others. This is a much heavier game than my group usually plays. So, like I said, I had the rule book open for 3 hours. It took us 4 hours to play. Now, next time around, I think we're going to be able to cut that down significantly if I play with all the same people. But how often at my place that doesn't happen very often because we're learning a new game every week. So I'm going to have to teach my kids this one, and maybe I can find a social worker or another psychologist or a therapist who would be interested in the theme enough that I could drag them in and play some board games with them. Because I just think that the design and the way it all works together is fantastic, but it is heavy. There is a steep learning curve here, and you could, on your turn, with so many options of where to place your things and 3 different choices that you could make with 5 different boards that you're working on. There are a lot of decisions to be made, and you could get into kind of an analysis paralysis situation where you're really thinking about your turn. You know, we did find we were paying less attention to other players' turns because we're thinking about what do we want to do next. You're looking at all of the symbols on your cards and the symbols on your board and where Freud is and where your meeple is on the city board. That could allow it to go faster if you know what you're doing. But I think at 4 players, this would be a game that has a lot of downtime where you would be thinking about your turn and thinking way ahead, hopefully, in order to be able to kind of exercise your turn with some efficiency. But it is a heavy game, and there is a lot to think about. Um, it is a table hog. Like I said, we had stacks of cards and 5 different boards and all of the player boards and the player offices, and then you've got to have room for the dreams on top of that, and then that's not even talking about these books that you're going to publish. There's a lot of pieces here, and it does take up a lot of space. So you've seen, I've no doubt put up a picture of how everything looked when it was set up. Like that's a 6 by 4 foot table, and there wasn't an inch left. So, and with only 3 players. So I think at least for us, 3 players is a good player count. It's enough that there's lots of interaction. There's lots of blocking on the board here. That does make it fun. I think at 4 players, this would be a long one, much longer. Well, certainly in our first game, it would have been longer than those 4 hours. But 3 players is a very good trade-off, I think, between all of the interaction and blocking that you do in worker placement and not bogging things down so much that you're waiting 20 minutes, half an hour before you get to do something on your board. So there are lots of decisions to be made. It is a long game. It is a complex game. It does take up a lot of space, but the theme and the way that the mechanisms interact with one another is just something that I mean, it's something I can't get enough of. But the problem is going to be scheduling enough time with the right kind of players to pull this one out and try it out with them. I mean, I could sit and lecture about psychoanalysis and how Freud is the guy who operationalized, to an extent, the unconscious and tried to analyze folks' unconscious motivations through dreams, all of that stuff. I could do a lecture on. I have done lectures on that many, many years ago. But this is it was such a great experience for me in particular. I mean, obviously I have a certain interest in the subject matter, but the components are great, the theme is great, the art is great. We've got Andrew Bosley involved here with these dreams. You might even be able to recognize his art. on some of those dream cards. The ink blots, the therapy points that we're talking about here, just that this game has a lot going for it, and it gives me in particular a lot to think about. So Fantasia has really hit it out of the park with Unconscious Mind. This is one that's going to be sitting on my shelf, and I'm going to be thinking about a lot, even if I'm not playing it. I have a couple of other games that are sort of similar to that, that just they stayed in my head, rent free, but I don't always get to take them out, maybe as much even as I'd like to. So what a fantastic piece of art that's been created here in the Unconscious Mind. I can't wait to play it again. I can't wait to talk to my friends who are therapists about it to see if I can drag someone out to try this one. Fantastic. If you have questions, if you have comments, you can leave them in the comments section below the video. If you want me to talk more about the ins and outs of all of these symbols and all of the player aids that I didn't really talk too much about. Why is there coffee? What do you use coffee for in this game? If you have specific questions, if you'd like a little bit more of an in-depth analysis, if you want me to do some, a little talk about Freud and the early days of psychoanalysis, I can of course do all of that stuff. Shoot me a comment, shoot me a like. If I get enough people requesting something, I'll do my best to fit it into the schedule. You can also email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. Previous ones are up there already. Brains on Games is the X handle and the Blue Sky handle and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed. So we're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video, you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.